Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Well, thank you all for joining today. This is going to be a really fun one. We have a really special guest with us today, Puja Rios. And a couple housekeeping rules. So I have a bunch of questions that people have submitted ahead of time, but if anything pops up or anything you want to ask, feel free to go ahead and type it in the chat and we'll make sure it gets asked. Really quick intro on Puja. Puja is the CRO of Frame.io, leading video review and collaboration platform used to share media, collect feedback, manage reviews, and delivered finished work, which was acquired by Adobe in 2021 for $1.28 billion. Prior to Frame, Puja spent almost 14 years building and leading the sales and CS teams at CareerBuilder and has a 3-career-long decade as a marketing and sales leader. She also recently wrote an amazing book called Get It Together, a winning formula for success from the boss you need, and has gone extremely, extremely deep down the AI rabbit hole. So I'm excited to hear more about her career, how she's thinking about the future, and how AI is playing into all this. Welcome, welcome. Well, Puja, I gave a quick overview, but maybe if you want to start off just telling people a little bit of how you kind of got where you are today.
Sure. Well, first of all, Elaine, thank you so much for having me. And I love learning about Tofu. I can't wait to expand our conversation more. So I'm thrilled to be here. So I have spent a long time, almost 30 years in corporate America. I started very, very early when I was 10, actually when I was 19 at Xerox. I spent 7 years there. And there I really learned about product strategy, business strategy, financial strategy. And then after that, I actually, for all you code writers there, my hats off to all of you. I went to PwC and wrote code in a basement at Johnson Controls. And I will tell you, for me personally, that was a very, very difficult role. So I have the utmost and highest level of respect for all of you coders that are here on this call today. After that, I went to CareerBuilder. I started as an enterprise sales rep, and then over 13 years, worked my way up to the head of enterprise sales and customer success. And then after 13 years, I'm sure some of you are like, wow, that is a long time. It was definitely time to make a shift. In my career, I've done always interesting shifts. I don't like to stay in the same industry. After Xerox, I didn't go sell copiers for HP. After CareerBuilder, I was not going to go to Indeed and sell HR software. And so I was introduced by one of my old coworkers to a little startup called Frame. And at the time, our company was $19 million. We had just finished our Series C, and the goal was to get to $100 million in a 3-year timeframe. And so it required a lot of build out. So it required building out all of our sales functions, our customer success functions, our marketing functions, our ops, our solution architect functions. And so we did a lot of build out. And so after the first year, we ended at 54 million in ARR, and we were well on our way. However, a company called Adobe came to us and said, look, like, we believe like video is the future. And now Frame not only hosts video, but all content. And we spent 7 months in diligence and were acquired, thankfully. So I've been with Adobe now almost 2 years, still running the entire Frame ecosystem. We crossed 100 million in 2.4 years. We crossed 100 million. Very exciting, very, very exciting. It was definitely a crowning moment for all of us in the company. And we crossed the 100 million in April of this year. We should have close to 130 million this year at a 60% growth clip. So while that's all fun and exciting, for those of you that haven't seen, like, Adobe launched our first generative AI content creator that combines images and text called Firefly. And earlier this year was my first introduction into AI. And the minute I was able to start understanding it, I lost my mind. And it became, and still is, an obsession. And that's how I thankfully got introduced to you, Elaine. For me, one of the things that really interests me is, the go-to-market machine is quite large, right? When you think about the entire customer journey, from the minute you say hello to a customer, all the way through renewing the customer, it is quite a long journey. And so when I'm learning about AI, like, my entire thought process is, how do we continue to streamline and use more of like a copilot methodology for not only starting with our marketing function, but all the way to from our BDRs all the way to customer success, to ensure that the right message is getting across to our customers and that it's consistent, and that we are getting better and better as we learn how our customers respond. So that is where my true passion lies in terms of AI. And I know When I think about AI, I think about it as bigger than electricity, bigger than the mobile phone. And I know it's the next thing that's going to carry our generation forward.
Well, before we get into the AI stuff, I have to ask, so going from 19 million to 54 to 100 is a huge, I mean, like that's pretty rare that you see companies grow like that. What were some of the things that you think you guys did exceptionally well to help you on that trajectory?
Well, just to round it, it was 1954, 8,700. So we did it in 2.4 years. So we did have the 87. Look, I think one of the things we did extraordinarily well was understanding our ICP and really having a foothold into expanding into markets that were outside of our bread and butter, which at the time were media and entertainment accounts. And we used a lot of data. And this is where I wish at that time, honestly, I wish I had Tofu, because if I did have it, I could take all of that data, combine it, and then it could really spit out some, these are obviously user-driven insights that we had. We started as a self-serve tool for individual and small team content creators, and then we grew obviously into an enterprise business. But that data that we had for years on our current content creators, where they sat, what companies they worked for, how many we had. If I had AI to kind of like slice, dice, help me analyze that data, which we did manually, which obviously took a significantly longer time, that is what really helped us excel. We made some big bets. We made big bets in terms of our enterprise solution. So our product started as a self-serve product. We worked diligently with product. Emery Wells, our co-founder, leads our product organization, and he's extraordinary. We worked diligently hand in hand with product to understand our enterprise customer requirements. When I came on board, it was about a 80-20 split of 80-20 coming from our self-serve tool, 20% of our revenue coming from enterprise. But if you fast forward now 2.5 years, we are at a 70-30 split, and it's flipped. So it is 70% of enterprise revenue, 30% of self-serve revenue. And in the midst of that, some of our big bets that we took outside of our core competency in terms of industry was where we made some big bets in terms of this was during COVID, so how tech could use us, how retail could use us, how financial services could use us, and how healthcare could use us. And the data that we got from our self-service tool indicated that there were companies that were definitely in need of this. And so that was one big area. I think the second big area that was really crucial to our success was fully understanding the customer journey. And so it's from the minute we say hello, through a lead or an outbound with our BDR team, all the way through customer renewal. What does that journey look like? And at Frame, the biggest way we grow inside of an account is through our PLG motion. We start super small. We built our organization where we have AEs that hunt, AMs that go and expand. And so the minute we landed, we were in there expanding. And then that's what led to our multi-million-dollar contracts and our growth.
And how would you, historically, even if it was manual, how would you get those insights and data on the different verticals, different accounts to the right people at the right time?
Email. Email and Slack are two amazing ways to communicate with each other. So
makes sense.
It was never real time. We were always behind. And sometimes I think we still are, to be blatantly honest with you. And so I always felt like it was in arrears. Even when we did the competitive analysis, like it was in arrears, right? And so that's why I think that like that real time getting it into every single person inside of the go-to-market org's hands and having it accessible at the minute they need it is crucial to our future success, because it's exciting to cross 100, but now you're like, okay, how do we get to 500 million, right? And in order to do that, I always say what got us there won't get us here. And so we have to get better, and AI is going to help us do that.
One other question too, it sounded like one of the game changers for you was actually going vertical specific. So starting to do more focused sales and marketing efforts around some of those core verticals. How did you go about that? And I guess what role did sales play? What role did marketing play? How did you guys team up on that?
Yeah, so I'll take you back a little bit on that one. There's actually a person on the call who started this team with me. His name is Alonzo Lee. Everyone say what's up to Alonzo, rock star. So let me take you back. I have always believed that an industry-focused approach to sales is a better approach. And so when I was asked when I was at Career Builder to build our new client acquisition team. So the problem we were trying to solve was our overall solution set was getting wider and wider and wider and wider, right? But we had a mix when we looked at the model of our sellers, the model was a mixed hunter and farmer. Now, if you have a $5 million book and you're protecting $5 million and trying to grow initial solution sets, you are not going to pay attention to all of those quote unquote zero billers, greenfield accounts that sit inside your book. Hence, I was asked to start the new client acquisition group. And the very first thing I did was we have to become industry specific. So it was quite amazing, this exercise we did. They were these massive, large stickies, and it was manual, and we had every single NAICS code, and we combined them together. And it did actually prove super fruitful. So we had 3 main verticals that we started with. We started with retail hospitality was one. We did professional services, which was financial services, consulting, et cetera. And then we did manufacturing. And so when I saw the traction, because we were able to train the reps, and the reps were able to go and self-source data that allowed them to become an industry expert. And so when they began speaking to their customers, it was almost like they at least knew the industry and they could have a way more fruitful conversation, which led to extraordinary growth. So when we went to Frame, we didn't have that model. And so I wanted to bring that model in because we had already tested and tried it. And so we had tested it and tried it with a new client team. It eventually became our model for the entire Career Builder organization when I ran enterprise. And so we had pods of customer success, marketing, and sales inside a pod for financial services. And that's what led to extraordinary growth. We did the same thing here. So what that meant that our marketing messages had to align to the 3 main verticals we were going after outside of our core. That meant that we had to have our BDRs aligned to really industry specific knowledge, and we had to have our reps aligned to industry specific knowledge. And then requirements came back from a product perspective on an industry basis, but we were able to size them appropriately to the point where products like, okay, yes, this does make sense for us in our future, and this is scalable over the long term. Long-winded answer to your question.
No, it's helpful too, just to see the evolution of that. But we've seen even, with a lot of our customers and people we're speaking with, that everyone has wanted to do this, but it's really time intensive and it takes a lot of bandwidth. And so being able to do this at scale has moved the needle for a lot of companies. It's just challenging. So it's great to hear actual examples of how you've actually done it.
Yeah, and it was horrid. I will tell you, when we moved it from new logo, when we took them, we're like, we're going to do this with the whole company. It was a horrid thing to do. And the timing had to be exact. Most companies, Q4 is their largest quarter, both for new and renewal. And the timing had to be exact. And it was a lot of mess we did it during the summer, which I call the worst months for sales. We did it during the summer and it was a disaster. But at the end of the day, what we all believed was the number one thing was our customer. And so as long as our customer understood the continuity process, it would work. And thankfully it did.
Yeah. One last question I want to ask about kind of that trajectory over the last 3 years at Frame. Any mistakes you made that you wish you would have done differently?
Oh, girl, I make a mistake every day. This is a daily thing for me, our mistakes. For me, it's like, how do you recover from them? I think in the beginning, as a new leader, leading remotely, I didn't meet my team for 2.5 years, just FYI. Thankfully, they're all still with me. I'm very, very grateful and very lucky. But I didn't meet my team for 2.5 years. And what I did not do, I thought I did it well, but I really didn't. So in the beginning, I met with, at the time, our go-to-market organization was 30 people. We're now a little over 200. So I met with every single one of them. I asked them the same set of questions because I wanted to get data. And I thought I got a good amount of data, but I didn't. I didn't get knee deep enough in the product, which, Elaine, as you know from our conversations, I am fully product obsessed. I didn't get knee deep enough in the product to understand the nuances. And so when I went to my team with this baseline 5-pillar strategic plan of the things we had to achieve between August and December, they all looked at me like I had 10 heads, and it didn't go very well, to be honest with you. It went horridly wrong. And I think that was my biggest mistake. is that I thought in the first 30 days I had spent enough time understanding our overall business, understanding it well enough that I could create these pillars that we needed to achieve between then and the end of the year. And I was wrong. And thankfully, I had a leader and a peer, and my leaders who gave me that fast and quick, very painful feedback. I actually write about it in my book, extraordinarily painful feedback. I think I sat in my closet for an entire weekend. That's my safe space. I sat in my closet for the entire weekend and contemplated my entire career at the time. But they gave me the feedback, and I always say feedback goes both ways, and they were very open and very honest with me, and it was painful to hear, but I'm so happy we established that relationship up front. But that was a massive, massive mistake I made in the beginning.
Yeah, it feels like sometimes those are the hardest conversations to have, but in retrospect, that's what actually pushes your career into a different trajectory.
Exactly. And they were brutal, I must say.
Well, I know you've spent a lot of time over the last year really going deep on the whole everything AI. And yep. I'm curious, we had a conversation before around what changes and what doesn't. What roles do humans play? What roles does AI take over? What's your general sentiment on that right now?
Okay, lots of thoughts. So here's my general sentiment, right? There's two really models for AI. But there's a copilot where, like Tofu is, we're co-piloting with a human on the side and continuing to learn together. And then there's complete displacement. My view is on the copilot. The market, I don't think, is ready right now and won't be ready for the foreseeable future for full displacement. Let me give you an example. So there was a test done by a large insurance company where they were going to use AI for their 40,000 plus insurance agents. And the company that went in and pitched them actually pitched them full displacement. And it fell flat. That company, unfortunately, actually ended up going out of business because it is not the time yet. And this company could not displace 40,000 of their insurance agents, nor did they believe that AI was at the time for them attuned enough, right, to fully replace a human. I subscribe to the go-to-market, the copilot methodology, especially in go-to-market. We need both inputs coming in to become smarter together. And that's where my belief stands.
And I think that also aligns too, even with, Adobe's, where Adobe's going with their AI products. To me, Fireflies is very much a co-pilot for the creatives. It's, you're giving people superpowers, but you're not trying to say, hey, we're going to replace the core thing that you bring to the table. When you look at sales, what areas do you think are pretty ripe to kind of have as the co-pilot? Like what areas should AI be taking the burden off of a salesperson? How do you see them interacting with AI? I guess if any examples of stuff you guys have actually tried to would be really helpful.
Yeah. So just back to Adobe really quickly with Firefly. I mean, I agree. It's a co-pilot situation. I think one of the key differentiators with what Adobe is doing with Firefly is content credentials. So that means that anyone that goes and creates content actually gets credit. And I think that is so crucial. Like when you even look at what's happening with the movie industry and the strike, right? One of the key components of that strike was in their contracts. If I'm an actor, you, Elaine, as a movie company, for $100, a whopping $100 can take my image and use it in perpetuity, right? And to me, that is not giving the right recognition and eventually pay to content creators, whether they're creating content online or they're actual actors creating content. So that's what I think is such a key differentiator with Firefly. And then our general views just overall on AI there have to be some very strong ethical policies behind it, right? And so we look at accountability, or we have three key models. It's accountability, transparency, and responsibility. And our general counsel actually spent some time with the earlier this month with the Senate Judiciary Committee on AI, talking about how important these are. And we have to think about that really across the board. So now to switch gears to go to market, I think AI can help us in every part of the entire customer journey. So let me say, when I saw Tofu, by the way, I haven't been able to stop speaking about it, but when you gave me a demo of Tofu, my mind just started going and going. Let's just start with the playbook part of the house, right? The ability to take website content, internal content, and combine it all and keep it relevant and fresh. That for sales is a game changer. Everything that they get, even through us, where we house it, is dated. It's never in real time, and they have to go and do their own work. So let's start with our MQLs. We can become smarter on who we're targeting. We can become smarter on the message that they're receiving. And when you think about like the overall content space, people are craving, right, for meaningful content that will like get them to take action. People are really craving for it, and AI is going to get us there. So we'll start with the leads. The second is, what is the SDR going to say in their 5x5 strategy when they LinkedIn message and email message and phone message? What are they going to say? And like thinking about if the lead comes in and the lead has been done in a very personalized way, and the content actually resonated because it was way more personalized than a blanket message, then now SDR has data on that. That data comes into them, and now they can actually adjust and shift their messages to get a higher conversion to a meeting. So that's part two. Part three, we're now going to go to the sales rep. I as you can see, I thought, Elaine, you have no idea. You changed my life when you showed me Tofu. My brain has not been able to stop turning since then. The third part now is, now you're sitting on data from the lead, what the SDR did. Now you're going to go into your discovery call as a salesperson. You already have a whole bunch of stuff you would have never had before, just based on what we did in the first two pieces of the customer journey. And now you can, with what I love about Tofu is that data, you can have the data sit there, and then there's content that you could actually pull that's already ready for you, that's in real time, that will give you the right questions to ask and eventually give you the right deck to put together for our customers. So that's part three. Part four, customer science. Woohoo, we now have to go and implement with our customer, right? We are sitting, it's not like I had to make sure that the rep inputted everything I need to know from a workflow perspective and all this. It's already sitting in our tool, and implementation becomes a lot smoother. And now we're with our AM org that's like, okay, where do I go expand? Well, there's so many conversations that happen in between. We have now fully tracked and analyzed, so they know exactly where to go. And then finally, when we go to usage in our customer success org, that we can understand upfront where we believe the highest usage can be and continue to grow, but we can also understand quickly, very quickly, instead of slowly, where there are some breaks that are happening inside of our customer base based on the data that's given back in. So I think that the tool is a start to finish customer journey tool.
I could not agree more. I have a question on that though. So if you look at the last decade of sales and marketing tools, we've had this whole like proliferation of SaaS where everyone buys 15 different tools that do one part of the funnel and one thing really well, and you kind of have to pass data between them. What is the general sentiment among revenue leaders now, especially when it comes to some of these new tools? Are you looking for one tool to do a lot more throughout the entire funnel? Do you want things that are kind of for each phase, you're going to have a different tool?
I want one tool. I want one tool that everyone goes into. Me, like starting with, you know, our people that do the leads all the way through. I want one tool. Now we understand you can't like remove Salesforce and remove some of the things that we're already using, but I would love one tool, which again, that's why I love Tofu. It's one tool for every use case, and we should be able to feed with API information into it from some of the systems that we're using for CRM or for outreach.
I think that makes total sense. I mean, even me personally on the operating side, so frustrating to have all these data silos and different user interfaces and having to string everything together. And so I think there's this rebundling that we're starting to see happen, which is great in my opinion. One other question too, you know, you mentioned throughout each of these different phases, you're using different channels, you're creating different messages, different content. It also feels like a really great opportunity to also have insights as to what type of message or content or length is performing on each channel. So it's not even that, okay, our SDRs now know here are the right words and language to use. It's also for LinkedIn, here's the right type of message versus for an email, here's a different type of message, and getting as granular on that as well.
That's right. Because, you know, look, like I will tell you, I think the SDR job is the hardest job. If there's any SDRs on this call today, like hats off to you, because you are outside of marketing, you are the starting part of our funnel. You know, and that to me is the toughest job. It's, you know, you ask most salespeople, they're going to be, what's the toughest part of your job? It's the building of the funnel. and the funnel is the only thing that's going to lead to success. So the SDRs are the human side of it are the front end of that. And their ability to be able to get information fast and tweak information even faster is going to be better for us. On the marketing side, look, spend is going to be way more effective, right? I would say our spend is pretty effective today. I think that our conversion rates could be higher. I think that how we message could be higher. I think that the industry specific could be higher, which are all the things we continue to work on. But AI is going to make us even smarter at that. Like, I love relying on humans, but most of human information sits in the brain, right? So if you can have a way to combine the AI information that's already being scoped and and understanding how customers responding with that human information, it's extraordinarily powerful for revenue.
Yeah, totally agree. Roy had asked a good question around your thoughts on the concept of an AI augmented workforce. So not just a copilot, but actually training people to kind of interact with AI. How are you thinking about that?
I think that's what's going to be needed, right? Like we're going to need to interact with AI for us to become smarter and for the AI piece to become smarter. I think most of you can probably tell by how I'm speaking about it. I have zero fear when it comes to AI. It is nothing that scares me. It's more of how do we continuously become better as an organization and as a society, and AI is going to help us get there. So we should have humans working with AI in conjunction, and I do see that as our future.
Even in the copilot world, do you see this augmenting or changing the team construction? Meaning, do you have more people, fewer people doing a role that you needed more before? Or are you augmenting in terms of where headcount's allocated? Do you think about that changing?
I do. I mean, look, like we think about that every year, right? So we go through our strategic planning, we look at like our growth number, and we think about where our headcount is allocated. I think about it quarterly, but in strategic planning, we think about it every year. The same thing is going to happen with the insertion of AI. We're going to start understanding, and I'm not willing to make any big bets yet, saying like we're going to have less SDRs or more SDRs or less reps or more reps. I don't know yet. Like I think that we should learn that together. But 100% is going to shift. It shifts every year anyway. So why would the insertion of AI change that?
Yeah. And now that you're, under the umbrella of Adobe, and you mentioned the whole concept of AI ethics and your stance on that, how are you thinking about your team and what tools they use or can use? Is it something where you're at the high level coming up with the strategy and helping them figure out how best to use it? Or are you letting people go rogue a little bit and try different things and use them on their own?
I'd like them to go rogue. I truly believe in, look, you can go rogue and you can test it within the confines of the Adobe ecosystem and what is allowed, right? So that's what I believe, because I believe as a team, we're stronger when, look, I have very set views on Tofu. I will tell you, I told my head of solution architects to be like, I need you to go check this out, because I told my head of ops, I need you to go check this out. I want their views. I want them to look, remember my problem in the beginning when I didn't seek to understand. I don't want that to happen again. So I like those different views, and they come up with extraordinary ideas. Your team is, look, most teams are smarter than the leader, right? I know for sure my team is. And that's great. That's how I want it. But I will tell you that they come up with sometimes significantly better ideas than I do. They have more feet on the street. So I want them to test within the confines of how we're allowed to test inside of the Adobe ecosystem. And I want us to talk through it. And that is a key part of our strategic plan for this year going into 2024.
I love that so much and wish more leaders were like you. I feel like right now there is a lot of fear. There is an equal amount of excitement and kind of trepidation, and people don't want to make a mistake. And I think it's so new and people don't know what they don't know, and they're erring on the side of caution. And so I love more forward thinking leaders like you who are saying, hey, go try this stuff out. You tell me what's working, and what's working, then we'll roll out to the team.
Exactly. Look, like I've always been that way when it comes to systems and tools. There were, back in the day, I'm sure it still is that some organizations, it was an outreach gong fight. But at the end of the day, it's the users of the tool that are the most important, right? They're the ones that we want them to get the most benefit out of. And so they should be, in my opinion, as long as it's within our requirements and confines, they should be the ones really driving the decision. I'm just there as ancillary to ask the deep questions that maybe they didn't think about. But that's it.
We have another question here, which I think plays great into what we're doing at Tofu in our previous conversation. But what about using AI to get all the resources that marketing creates so that selling is more effective?
Sorry, ask that question one more time. I'm sorry, let me go to the chat.
He had asked, what about using AI to get all the resources that marketing creates so that your selling is more effective? And so I think this is where, where we discussed before, this ability for a marketing team to actually create all of those nuanced assets, whether it's by your core industries or at an account level, or, really getting extremely granular by a persona or that kind of thing, and using that for sales.
I will tell you. So I think that's absolutely spot on. So I will tell you that initially when we had to do our competitive analysis and then so I do this exercise every year. It's I call it rendition. It's a career builder term. And what that means is marketing and sales jointly put together a presentation, and then it goes out to everyone in go-to-market, and then we do a contest, okay? And the contest is who can present our product and demo the product most effectively. And so it's everyone from BDRs to CS. I will tell you every year CS wins, but the teams compete, and then we get to like the finals where there's like one from each team, and then like the winner is chosen. Marketing actually, I would say that, when I think about Emery and Frame and the marketing aspect of Frame, he was very forward and thinking. And so marketing has really been the people that are helping us develop bulk of our deck. So AI should just be tacked on right to that. They're doing our next round as we speak.
Yeah, that's how I've always looked at it, is if you think about enterprise B2B, so probably looked different when you were mostly self-serve, but once you shifted to more of an enterprise motion, marketing is in service of sales. You're aligned on revenue goals, on conversion targets. And so therefore they need to help you sell. And that means really understanding what is going to be effective.
We call it smarketing, sales and marketing.
I've never heard that before.
Smarketing.
Does that help with the, does the labeling help with alignment among marketing 100%. And sales?
So,
I believe that.
So the Slack channel is actually called Smarketing. That is the sales leaders and the marketing leaders in one Slack channel. As you can see, we're a very heavy Slack company. At the beginning of every meeting, I'm like a broken record at the beginning of every meeting. I'm like, as a reminder, these are the remaining gaps that we have in terms of revenue to get to our number for the year. So it always starts with a number. And I think like that joint alignment has really made a shift in mindset for both sales and marketing in terms of how we should be a joint force to get to the target versus a separate force.
And I'm of the big belief too, that actually a lot of these AI tools are really going to enable marketing and sales to have better relationship and more seamless collaboration.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, one of the things that was always frustrating being on the marketing side is I would always have salespeople come to me and be like, hey, I have a huge meeting with Starbucks on Tuesday. Can you build me a deck and a one-pager? And, marketing is like, I have 50 other things on my plate. No. But now if you have a tool that instantaneously can deliver that, sales can get exactly what they need in real time. Marketing can ensure it's the right messaging and branding. Everyone is happy. You can also share data back and forth as to what's resonating with who and what leads are moving forward in the pipeline and all of that.
That's why I love Tofu.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
I'm curious. I really do.
Has your team actually either rolled out something or tested some tools internally to date?
They're in their testing phase. So I will tell you. So cyclically, when you look at our business, so this is our this month is our end of Q3. Our fiscal at Adobe ends at the end of November. So they did a lot of testing in July. Unfortunately, we have not had a chance to connect. I was out sick, but our first round is next week. So I cannot wait to hear all the things they have to say.
Do you have a general sentiment on where you think things are ready for prime time and to actually be rolled out into production, where you think some of these tools fall down?
Yeah, look, I think when we look at the tools for full production, for go-to-market, I think we have to fully embrace the seat model. I think that go-to-market will probably, in my opinion, be one of the first that'll see true success with AI, I think the fastest, which will be great because it directly correlates to revenue. And so if tools directly correlate to revenue, I think that we'll see extraordinary success. I think about, the success of ChatGPT, 200 million users, super fast. I think about, the company in Japan called Cougar, which it really focuses on loneliness, and they got to 100 million in 6 months. So for me, it's the tools that are going to go the fastest. When you think about really the 4 areas, I think it's going to be interfaces and apps first that lead to revenue growth.
Yeah,
Or
I agree. I think anything that can tie directly to hard ROI, you'll start to see some real adoption pretty quickly.
That's exactly right. Yep.
And where do you think over time we still need the humans? Like, what main roles do the humans have to play that's irreplaceable?
That is a big question.
I don't throw softballs.
No, that is not a softball question. I haven't gotten, I will say for me personally, I have not gotten to the place yet where I'm at the humans are replaceable. I think that there's still a lot for us to learn. I think that over the next year or two, we're going to do a lot more learning and understanding of the initial copilot model, and then slowly start figuring out where we can. I don't think humans will ever be displaced. I think that AI will take over certain tasks, but you'll still need the human on the top to analyze. And that's really where my mindset is right now.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of human input that's required to actually make the AI copilot better too. So I think there's a combination, how I think about it at least, is you have things that are inputs and then things that are kind of what you do with the output. And there's the, Roy had mentioned here nuances and, kind of like those little things that are stored to your point in people's brains. How do you also leverage those? And I think having those as inputs to some of these tools can actually dramatically help the output. And then I think it's somebody told me a statistic this week that was 17% of a sales cycle is actually the human to human relationship. And the other 83% is all digital communications and emails and back and forth and things like that. And I think that 17% becomes so much more critical in terms of really, really making that worth the time and moving the needle more. And so how can we get people to be effective there?
I love that stat, by the way, and I'm writing that down because I didn't have that one before. No, I agree. Look, sales is look, people buy from people they trust, period, end of story, right? So there has to be the human side of it. The bulk of our largest deals get over the line because of the humans involved, both from our customer perspective and from our sales team. They're not going to get over any other way.
Yeah. Well, I know you've even done some courses and you've read a ton of stuff. What are other areas within AI? It doesn't even have to be sales related that you're really excited about right now. Any anecdotes or stories you've heard that you thought were really cool?
Look, I am very, very interested. I thought I wasn't. I think when we initially spoke, Elaine, I said that I really wasn't interested in the hardware side of AI. I was like, oh my God, it's like rocks when I was like slinging copiers for a living. But I am back in that mode. And I'll tell you why. Even if you think about, we recently bought a new car. And the car is like on a 2-year waiting list. The reason is because of the chip that is like put in the car is the thing that runs the whole car. Well, that's going to be the same for AI. The hardware that's going to be needed and the infrastructure alongside of it that's going to be needed to run this is going to be like insane, right? Like there's, when you talk to some people and conspiracy theorists, they're like, Microsoft and Google are building these massive server somewhere in the middle of nowhere to ensure that they have full capacity to operate AI. That has become actually super interesting to me. How much does it take to power this, right? And then what is that going to look like a year from now and 5 years from now? So I've become extraordinarily interested in that, even though in the beginning I was not.
Yeah, it's an area I don't know as much about either, but I think it's really fascinating.
It's fascinating to think about the power and the amount of hardware that's going to be required to get this all to work.
Yes, and who the winners and losers are in that battle.
Exactly. I still, the conspiracy theories, I always listen to them because I don't think they're fully wrong in terms of what's happening behind the scenes.
Yes, will be fun to follow. I think we have time for maybe one or two more questions if anybody wants to add anything into the chat. But one of the questions I guess I have for you are, what are the biggest areas you're focused on right now? What are some of the goals or challenges you're trying to work through with your team?
It really all boils down to efficiency, right? And if you make your marketing messages more effective and you make your ability to grow funnel more effective and more efficient, that is what's going to lead to extraordinary growth. Look, we at Frame, to get to where we have an extraordinary product, and we pulled ourselves up by the bootstraps and just went, right? But like I said, the difference from 100 to 500 million is very different. And so we have to really look at, how does a day, a week, a month, a quarter, a year become more efficient for our people? And for me, that's where I'm spending the bulk of my time. That's why it's such a massive interest in AI, because I do know that is what's going to make us more efficient. Where a rep is converting 10% of their deals, what if they converted 20? Like, what a huge impact that will be, not only for our business and for our customer, but for the rep themselves, right? And their ability to create a new future for themselves. So that's really where my focus is right now.
And when you think about generating those efficiency gains, is there a combination of kind of the following of like training and incentivization and tooling and, information? How are you thinking about achieving that? What are the inputs that go into it?
Well, I think the first is, what are you doing today? And I call it, where are the brakes in the machine, right? So let me give you an example. So recently, I had a new leader take over really all of our lead gen. We did some shifting in our business, and I had her take over all the lead gen. So as she's going through our tooling and really looking at why isn't the outreach converting to a meeting, she found that 30% of the emails that were sent were bounced back. So we were using, that's huge. And we're using tools to get customers contact information. We're using Zoom and all like the great ones out there, but it's getting to the point where it's not working anymore. Right. And so I have a team of 26 SDRs across 2 business lines, where 30% of the work that they're doing is completely inefficient and non-existent. And so that to me is like, okay, first, when she found it, I was like, amazing, extraordinary. But then the second thing is, she's like, now I have to go evaluate other and better tools for us to get the right contact information and input, so that we're not getting a 30% bounce back rate. That's insane, right? But that's inefficient. Think about the amount of work that the SDR is doing and nothing's coming back in return.
I was actually just having this conversation with somebody last week about email as a channel and how much less effective it's gotten over the last few years. And when you think about, consumer has a few different ways that have popped up where you can try to reach people, whether it's TikTok or, Instagram ads. B2B less so. And so I think people are going to get really creative of figuring out ways to meet people where they are. But I think to your point of efficiency, it means that when you do get in front of them, that message has to really resate. Otherwise, you're missing that opportunity.
Like that pitch has to be like 1 to 5 seconds or it's over, and you're right. Look, I think email, remember back in the day in AOL, it used to be, you have mail and like, you just like run to your computer. And now I'm like, why are there 300 emails in my mailbox? And so I will tell you, I don't respond to 97% of the emails that are sales calls. And so, but the ones I do respond to are the ones that have a quick, effective message that I can read in one scroll. So we have to do the same thing now. Like, when you think about companies that are really exploring on text, I'm much faster to respond to a text, and so are our customers versus anything else. So how do we get them there? And so that all boils down to, for me, is efficiency. And it's not like, is my human efficient? Are they producing enough? It's not about that. It is about, is the work that they're doing effective in getting them to the goals and getting us overall to our goals? And if it's not, like, we have to use better ways to do it.
When you were talking about AOL, immediately in my head, I just sort of noted, it used to be immediately with, you got mail, you have to jump in to read it. And then more recently, the second you get a text, even if you're engaging in a conversation, people grab their phone to see it.
Of course they will.
Right? What's going to be the next channel like that? I don't know. That would be cool.
I don't know either. And I will tell you, on Instagram, I don't really respond. My husband's big on Instagram. He's in the music industry. He's big on TikTok. But for customers, my fastest is today
Yeah.
is text.
Yeah, I believe it. And it's definitely underutilized for B2B. I think
100%.
it somehow feels still spammy, but there's probably a very elegant way to do it where you're not just spraying and praying, you're actually doing it in a very targeted, very thoughtful way.
Exactly. And AI should help us with that.
Yeah, I could completely agree. Well, Pooja, this was so awesome. You gave us so much great gold information. So thank you for joining us today. Everyone, this was recorded, so I will make sure that we send everyone the recording after the fact. But thank you for your time, and I look forward to continuing the conversation.
Elaine, thank you so much for having me. Thank you all that joined us today. It was so fun. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining. See you next time.